So next, we're excited to hear from Elizabeth Carlson. She's from the FIFA World Cup Houston Host Committee, and she'll be talking a little bit about the work that they're doing. Elizabeth, please join us.
All right, thanks everybody. It's good to see you all out here. Let me see if I can figure out the slider. Yes, okay, good. First of all, thank you to our hosts, HGAC and Baylor College of Medicine. It's so great to hear the story starting out about Atlanta. I have a similar kind of story, not direct experience, but I remember just studying a lot about sustainability in college and grad school when the Olympics were happening in China, and there was the Blue Skies Initiative. And that always stuck with me about how do you actually use these sporting events to create change, and particularly that one on air quality. And we see so many examples like that. I mean, Barcelona in the Olympics completely transformed the city. And so when I think about the World Cup and why I'm doing this role, chairing the Sustainability Committee, it's because this is the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to really transform Houston using a moment like this that brings us all together. And so I see our role really from the sustainability side as how do we convene, how do we sort of instigate activities, how do we accelerate? Because the Sustainability Committee will go away next year, right? I mean, after the event is hosted. So we have to make sure that everything we do is connected to our institutions and people here in Houston. And so just really excited that HGAC is looking at this as an annual event, because hopefully this will be a similar story in the future. Someone will say, remember when Houston had the World Cup and we hosted this air quality summit and then it led to X, Y, and Z. And so that's where we're gonna focus as well. So just as a kind of introduction to what is the World Cup, I know that some people have all the knowledge about soccer, much more than I do, but some people maybe are not big fans and don't understand how big this event actually is. So I'm just putting up a few stats to kick us off. It is the largest sporting event in the world. 5 billion people engaged in some way with the 2022 FIFA World Cup. And this World Cup is even bigger, right? And so just thinking about the opportunity for awareness and engagement, if you just think about the sheer number of people that are engaging in the subject matter, and obviously that won't just be Houston, there's 16 cities, but just you can see how that compares to like the Final Four or the NBA or the World Series, which we think as really big events. And so just to give you an idea of how much bigger here. This is a little bit about the schedule. You can see, it's 3 countries, 16 cities, 48 teams, 104 matches, and June and July. So the other big challenge we're gonna have besides air quality is heat and heat mitigation. And so we've got a lot of projects looking at that. We have 7 games, but the fan festival and the work that we're doing will be over that full month or so of happenings around the World Cup. And then these are just some of the dates, so you can see the schedule. I'll do this quickly. One important date is December. We don't actually know who will be playing in Houston yet, so we should know that in December, and that will help drive a little bit, even in terms of transportation, right? Who is coming from which countries? What is their culture of getting around? How are they looking at these issues of sustainability in their home countries? And then just a little bit about the footprint. So as you think about air quality monitoring or transportation between sites, where is this all happening? Sometimes I put a map up there, I think it's coming later, but basically we're looking at Energy Park where the games will be played, and then Edo where the fan festival will be. So I'll talk a little about the green corridor and how that kind of makes a loop around. And then what are we doing to create legacy? So when we talk about legacy, which maybe is a strange word to use outside of sporting and events, but this idea of long-term change, what are we trying to do? And it's really around these 3 pillars of human rights, sustainability, and really we're talking about environmental sustainability there, and grow the game. Grow the game being more about how do you get more kids into safe spaces to play soccer and to be involved in the game more generally. This is a little bit about the Sustainability Committee. So hopefully many of you have already been to our Sustainability Committee meetings, so this isn't too new of information, but if you haven't yet, the host committee works directly with FIFA. And then under the host committee, the first committee to be formed was the Human Rights Committee, and the second was was sustainability. And I like to say that because it just shows how this event has brought human rights and sustainability, which are often on the outskirts of these types of major events or businesses or industry, and it really made them front and center because these were the first two plans to be developed. And then we've done a lot of stakeholder engagement. I won't go too much into detail on that, but I will say the website for the World Cup, if you go to the sustainability page for Houston, there is information about how we developed the plan, the stakeholder engagement sessions, and so on. But this is just a little bit of the themes that we're covering. So you can see air, water, and nature being the one we're focused on here, but also low carbon transportation. There's the direct link. Also climate and energy, because these, if we're using generators or if we're using different climate solutions, GHG emissions and so on, and then waste and circularity as well, right? Like what are we doing with organic food? So it is all interconnected, but air has a special place in the plan as well. And then this is just quickly to give you an idea of what are we looking at in terms of impact. So when you think about the World Cup as an event, you have actual event venues. And that's where we can really control the impacts of the event. So if we think about the things I mentioned, like how do we reduce generator use at the event site so that we can reduce air emissions? That stuff is pretty well defined in terms of our sustainable event management plan and different environmental mitigation plans that we have specifically for the Fan Festival or that the stadium has in place. But the bigger opportunity is beyond the event site, because the event itself is temporary and we want to make that lasting change. So the other two places where we're putting a lot of focus is on the hospitality sector. So we're almost done. It should be launched very soon with a hospitality toolkit for sustainability, and that will provide incentives for hotels and restaurants to take action on sustainability. That could even include, hosting an air quality monitor, things like that. And then the bigger circle is our city, our communities, and our systems. So how do we really accelerate collaboration across all these topics? And I just put these lead, rally, mobilize aspects because the World Cup doesn't bring a lot of direct investment. It's not like the Olympics where you're building new infrastructure, but it does provide us the opportunity to really bring people together. And I'll talk a little bit about what that looks like here. Really quick timeline recap. I'm not going to go into details on this, but just to say that we've been working on these plans for 2 years. And so it's exciting to finally see some of the results coming to fruition. I mean, Farah and I have been working on this for many, many months. So to see it finally happen is great. And I think we're going to see more of that over the next 9 months, some of that planning coming into fruition. And this is just to give you an idea of all the things that are happening beyond air quality. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how air quality is incorporated into several of these. But just to quickly touch on it, we have a whole plan for Fan Festival on how to integrate sustainability across every aspect. We're going to do a legacy sustainable event management system. I'll talk about the Green Corridor separately. I mentioned the hospitality toolkits. We have a couple big idea projects, which basically mean not guaranteed to succeed. They're kind of wild ideas that take a lot of people agreeing and a lot of investment, but we're going to give it a go. And so one of those is reuse, and the other one is resilience-based carbon mitigation. So we should know in the next couple months if those are going to go through or not. And then we have sustainable soccer fields and a few others that I'll go over. So just why the World Cup and air quality. There's some debate about how events actually impact air quality. Some people will say it's going to make air quality worse because you're going to have all these people coming in and you're going to have more traffic and more driving. And some people say it might actually make it better because everybody will stay home and they'll take the metro. And we're actually going to try to measure that to see what it looks like. But ultimately, again, how are we connecting the dots on air quality? We know that sports bring people together. And this summit is an example of how we can start to bring people together around that theme that maybe wouldn't normally have connected or wouldn't normally have collaborated. The other thing is the diversity of audiences that sports engage. I mean diversity in every sense of the word here. You have young people engaging with sports. You have traditionally underrepresented groups engaging with sports. You have, schools, you have leagues, you have fans, you have athletes, you have so many people that aren't part of our sustainability spaces getting involved in the World Cup. And so it opens the door to really build awareness about issues of air quality with people who wouldn't normally have that opportunity to engage or wouldn't normally think about those issues. And that's really a moment we need to seize upon and think about how we communicate and message about air quality as we go into the World Cup. And then the last one is what we mentioned, right? I mean, blue skies, the Paris Olympics, you guys probably remember the big concerns over the sign and people didn't want to swim and how do you clean up water? And so we've kind of followed that model as well and doing water and air quality kind of cleanup opportunities. Okay, so how specifically are we integrating air quality into our operations and projects? One thing I'll just say is that we really do want feedback. So there's still time to make improvements, to make tweaks in what we're doing, and we're looking to all of you to give that input and feedback as we move forward. But conceptually, we have a sustainable event management system. Houston hosts a lot of events. People actually say that we host more sporting events than any other city in the world. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but it sounds good. And so every time we host an event, we're always kind of recreating the wheel when it comes to sustainability. And so one of our hopes with the World Cup is that the sustainable event management system, which essentially means all the policies, the documents, the data, everything that we're doing to organize and manage the event around environmental impacts, we want that to be something that's left with the city and that anyone can take and reuse in the future, adapt, copy, edit. So we will make our whole playbook public. And that will be hosted on a legacy website where anyone can access that. And one thing there is just integrating the aspects of air quality into those playbook documents. An example is a risk register. I mean, have any of you been involved in projects or CapEx projects where you're doing risk registers? Like, yes. In industry, it's very common. I think in the city, it's very common. But oftentimes, environmental risks don't get on the risk register. Everybody thinks about financial risk, they think about some technical or engineering risk, but they forget about environmental issues, or maybe because it's not elevated to the level of immediate death threats or things like that, right? So when they're looking at risk, they're more concerned with these, natural disasters or cybersecurity attacks or things like that, and they're not looking at the level of environmental. So we've made sure, working with OEM and city stakeholders, to incorporate air quality as a risk in those risk matrices. And it seems small, but to me that's a big win, because we want every event to start thinking about how are we impacting the environment and how can the environment have a health impact, like we talked about. Visitors coming in may not be aware of air quality issues. We may have an incident that makes air quality worse during the World Cup. So just making sure that these things are integrated. The other is sustainable soccer fields or resilient soccer fields. I don't know what we'll title it yet. This is the idea of, we have so many fields, sports fields across the city. I'm not talking about professional fields like neighborhood parks, schools. How do we make those demonstrations of resilience instead of just patches of grass? And so we've had technical experts kind of put in place guidelines for how we could renovate or maintain or build fields that are more resilient. And that includes things like sustainable lighting. My own daughter plays soccer in public school, and I went to her games at HISD, and they have a field where all the kids play, like soccer, football, etc. They use generator lighting for all of those fields, and it's glaring, awful, and polluting. I mean, imagine if we could get to a place where solar lighting is actually cheaper with an ROI. Can we start changing that model? Because people just use generator lighting because it's easy, it's quick, it's what they know. And so part of what we're trying to do here is get that education awareness and hopefully be able to fundraise a little bit for investments to make those changes. It's not healthy for athletes to be playing with a generator right in their face, right? We also have a K-12 menu. So how do we get schools and children to engage with the World Cup sustainability plan? We have a great group of volunteers from the Houston Zoo, from the Children's Environmental Literacy Foundation, and others who are thinking about projects that students could do that can include air quality monitoring projects to get involved in sustainability. Waste, like I mentioned, we are trying to make sure that we're not going to necessarily claim zero waste to landfill for the Fan Festival, but we are trying to optimize waste recovery, and that includes things like composting. Probably not the whole thing, because I can't really trust all of us to compost correctly front of house, but probably back of house, we'll focus on the composting, and that has an indirect air quality impact. And then I mentioned our big idea. So we really want to use this event to position nature as what I call the home field advantage for everyone, and look at how our ecosystem is like a team, is like a game, and we have to win for the planet as much as we have to win for the World Cup. This is looking at how we could measure returns on air quality, water, flood resilience through investments in conservation and nature. It's contingent on FIFA kind of figuring out their carbon strategy and seeing if it works with what we're proposing, but we should know in the next few months if that's going to be feasible. All right, I'm going to skip over a couple things because I've already taken too long, but I do want to say on Friday we have a cleanup at the bayous, and we're going to be doing about 6 of these events. If you haven't signed up for that and want to get involved, we still have spaces. And we'll be doing some trainings on a virtual one and in person on the STOP protocol, which is about how we can track trash in the bayou as we do the cleanups. Okay, very quickly, this is Green Corridor. If you've seen me speak before, you've heard about this a lot. This map kind of outlines the red line from downtown to the stadium. We've got the Brays Bayou and Columbia Tap Trail that lead back up to Edo. And the idea is, can we make this loop not just a low carbon transport loop, but a demonstration of sustainability in every sense? So a demonstration of innovation, a demonstration of native planting, a demonstration of tree cover and heat mitigation, but also can we do something on air quality? And so there's a couple projects we're working in the background that hopefully we can announce soon to try to improve air quality monitoring on that corridor. Some of these ideas, just to give you an idea, we're hoping we can integrate, there's actually going to be a map of the Green Corridor and kind of sustainable destinations that you can visit. So one thought is, can we use the existing air quality monitors and dashboards and kind of link them all in one place so people can build awareness on what's happening? Can we get more hosts or sponsors for air quality monitors to fill in existing gaps, whether that's through the hospitality toolkits or through the Green Corridor project? A lot of education, so using the City of Houston's air quality monitoring van during Fan Festival, during the World Cup to get, again, those different audiences engaged, and then actually trying to monitor and measure how air quality changes during the event. Of course, there's a lot of things that could factor into that, but just looking at it a little bit more closely. Okay, I think we have like 2 minutes to do this. You're gonna have to move fast. But if you want to scan this QR code, and I did not test it before, so let's see if it works. If it doesn't, we'll put it up. It doesn't work? No. There's 3 questions. We are trying to take this summit and turn it into action. So from the World Cup side, we have these little badges we're developing, almost like a Girl Scout badge. And we want people to earn those badges by taking action on sustainability. And that could be the hospitality toolkit. It could also be taking air quality actions. And that can have, for business and industry, an opportunity to get marketing benefits, so to speak, from these badges. And so we're thinking about, what actions should we ask of business, industry, and individuals? It has to be something that's feasible. It has to be something that can be done in a short time frame. So don't tell me to like shut down every plant on the Gulf Coast and change the whole system to renewables tomorrow. That's a long-term project. Think short-term, quick win. What actions can we ask individuals to take? And I realize that I don't even know if this is going to work because I have to change the question, and I don't know if it's going to work to log into my account. Yeah, that's going to be the problem because I don't have my laptop hooked up. Why don't we do this? You know this is coming. I'm going to log into my system with Vinny, and we can bring it back in one of our little intermission breaks with the Menti to get your actions up and put that in place. And then we will do the questions then, since I'm already out of time anyway. This is my email if you have any ideas or want to reach me, and we will get that Mentimeter up a little bit later. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you for all the hard work that you've been doing over FIFA for these long years now at this point. But definitely, please make sure that you, when we have the QR code up again, please make sure that you take that survey. I think the results will be very valuable for the work that Elizabeth and we all are doing.